What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be talking about some good versus bad athlete habits. So the first situation I want to talk about is after practice. What do you do when practice ends? So a bad athlete, or I guess you could say like maybe not so much an undisciplined athlete, I should say, will go home, they play video games, they watch TV, they procrastinate with the things that they know they need to get done. So then what happens, they're either doing them really late at night, so their sleep is affected. We're going to talk about sleep later in this video. Or what they're doing is they're cramming it in the morning and their work is going to suffer. Or they're not watching film. What a good athlete is going to do after practice is, one, he'll probably stay after practice and work on some things that maybe he was struggling with. If he's a quarterback, he'll work with his receivers a little bit. Receivers will work with the quarterbacks. You're a lineman, you do some sled work after practice while you're waiting to get picked up. When you get home, right away, maybe you shower, maybe you eat something, then right away you attack your homework. Right away you're watching some film and you're studying tape. Because again, you're taking care of business that you need to do to set you up for success the next day. You don't want to procrastinate and you don't want to be that guy that puts things off. Now, something that you can do to help you with that is write out a schedule for yourself. To this day, I do that exact same thing. Maybe at night before you go to bed, write out a daily schedule for you hour by the hour. Let's say you get up at 6 a.m. Okay, 6 to 7:30, I'm doing this. 7:30 to freaking 2 o'clock or whenever you have school, I'm at school. And then after practice for this hour, I'm doing this hour, I'm doing that, because it helps you kind of mentally focus on those things hour by the hour, and you check those things off, which builds a little bit of confidence in yourself. But you can't be a procrastinator, especially after practice ends. I know it's tiring, I know it's hard, but wait till you get to practice or wait till you get to college and you'll have multiple practices a day. You'll have study hall, you'll have classes, and the class load is a lot more than what it would be in high school or middle school ball. So just don't be that guy that procrastinates after practice. Now let's talk about sleep, you guys. Sleep is one of the most important things that athletes can get, and a good quality night's sleep is very, very important. So let's talk about some of the mistakes that athletes will make, right? Number one, they'll be on their phone scrolling or watching TV, and then they go right to bed. So why is that bad? The blue light on your camera or on your phone screen, the blue light from the TV, the blue light from your iPad affects your eyes, and that is not going to allow you to hit a deeper version of sleep. Some people call that REM. I'm not sure like the exact scientific things behind REM. I just know, me personally, what I've seen a lot of success with is turning the phones off and turning the TV off at least 1 hour before you go to bed. It's a noticeable difference for me. Like if I'm watching TV and then for whatever reason I like fall asleep on the couch or something like that, I have a horrible night's sleep. Maybe it's because I'm on the couch, but at the same time, when you're watching that, it's not good for your eyes, you guys. So an hour before you go to bed, study, read a book, do some homework. Don't be watching that blue light screen and just doom scrolling until you fall asleep. Second thing that could help with your sleep, and this is what a lot of athletes do, and I get this one if you maybe are crunched for time, I understand, but eating something at least 1 hour before you go to bed, anywhere within that window. Like let's say you eat a big meal for dinner, because a lot of athletes, obviously, what do you want to do? You want to gain weight. So if you eat this big meal and then 15 minutes after that you decide to go to bed, the problem with that is that your stomach is trying to digest that food while you're sleeping. So blood is pumping to your stomach rather than to your brain, to your mind, which doesn't allow you to get deeper sleep. So something that can help you is sleep, and sleep is so important for athletes because your body can recover. You'll feel fresher the next day, so you could go after practice, or go after practice. I mean, putting in more effort at practice, get the most out of it, get the most out of your lifts in the gym. If you have that good night's of sleep and you recover and you rest your mind, your mind's the most important thing. You don't want to wake up with a bunch of brain fog. So guys, that I recommend eating your last meal 2 hours before you go to bed. So let's say you go to bed at 9. Do not eat anything past 7, and I promise you're going to get deeper sleep and you're going to feel better in the morning, which will help you attack practice the next day. Now, fellas, before we get into the rest of these habits for good and bad athletes, if you're a QB or wide receiver watching this video and you want to train with myself and my staff of coaches, we are going to be traveling out to 15 different cities across the entire country this year for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So guys, go to that very first link in the description below if you would like to sign up. That's where you can get all the information. Our next camp is going to be in San Francisco, California. Then we'll be heading to Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona. Then after that, we'll be coming out to Columbia, South Carolina, Seattle, Washington, Nashville, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then we'll be heading out to Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Salt Lake City, Utah, and finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So guys, we'd love to have you there. Very first link in that description below. It's where you can get all the information and sign up. So fellas, let's talk a little bit about nutrition. So the stuff that we're discussing in this video are things that we don't normally talk about, right? We're normally focused on like performance in terms of like a field setting, right? Like drills, technique, those things. But this honestly, I think is super important for a lot of athletes because not a lot of athletes emphasize this. So if you're a dude who's looking to get an edge on another player and maybe take your game to that next level, these are all things that you want to emphasize. So let's talk about nutrition, right? And I get it if you're in a situation where maybe you can't afford afford like these, you know, top of the line, organic, super fancy type foods, like obviously those are great things to eat and probably the best type of fuel that you want to fuel your body with. But if you don't have, like, I guess the financial means to do that, I totally understand. But there are things that you can do, even that are very, very cheap, to be totally honest with you, because I'm a cheap guy and I eat like this. I'm not trying to spend $300 when I go to the grocery store, and groceries are expensive these days. But what I can recommend to you is try to stay away from processed foods and unnatural sugars, okay? So processed foods are like the fast foods, the McDonald's, the KFC, the In-N-Out, like whatever you guys like to go eat. And I'm not saying that you should never eat like that, but the problem is that, like, if you're an athlete and you know, maybe you're trying to gain weight and you eat that type of stuff, it's not the best fuel for your workouts. It's not the best fuel for your practices. I had an athlete telling me earlier this week that before practice they went to like Jack in the Box and they had, like, you know, this sandwich and chicken strips and all this stuff. I'm like, how do you even practice like that? Because I know me personally, when I eat anything that's really high in fat or really processed, it slows down the digestive process. So what happens is that blood ultimately starts flowing to your stomach, like we talked about earlier with the whole sleep thing, and then your blood's not pumping to your mind. That's why you feel sleepy. That's why you feel like you're dragging. That's why you feel tired. And a lot of people eat like that so often, they don't actually know what feeling good feels like. So that's a bad habit that a lot of athletes have, is they eat processed crap. They're eating sugar. They're eating, you know, like gummy bears or whatever the hell it might be. Like, guys, you want to try to stay away from that. So I get it though, because that type of food is cheap. And I think it's kind of bad that that's the food that's very, very cheap, because I feel like they're setting people up for failure who are maybe in lower income environments. That's just my personal opinion. But what I will say is, if you just try to limit it to single ingredient foods that are not processed and that are not super high in fat, not super high in processed sugar, I honestly think your performance is going to be much better, because your stomach's not going to have to exert all this energy to break down all this fat and all this processed garbage. You're going to be able to eat, get fuel, still have a clear mind, still have a lot of energy, and be able to perform at practice. So what are some single ingredient foods? Eggs, chicken, rice, potatoes, almonds, walnuts, like things like that, grapes, like, again, because some people, you know, like if they want that like sugar fix or something sweet, they immediately go to like an ice cream, or they immediately go to, you know, like an ice cream sandwich or something of that nature, right? But if you eat fruit, that has like natural sugars in it, right? Which is also good for energy. So having grapes, watermelon, things of that nature are going to be great for you guys, because those are all single ingredient. My thing is, like, if it's not a natural food that is either grown or like comes from an animal, I'm not going to put it in my body and I'm not going to eat it. So if you guys can take care of business on the nutrition side of things, I really think you'll have more fuel, you'll have more energy for your workouts in the gym and on the field, which will ultimately make you a better player. You have to take care of this stuff off the field if you want to be ultimately an elite athlete. Now, fellas, the next thing I want to talk to you about is kind of an interesting topic, and I feel a lot of athletes do this type of stuff and not a lot of people talk about it, which is why I want to address it with you today. And that is what you are consuming when you are on your phone. So I feel like in this world, there is so much negativity, and it's a constant comparison game, especially with social media, right? So I feel like a lot of athletes, they see constant BS on their feed all the time. They're either looking at, you know, like the stupid, like, you know, highlight pages where like this 8th grader has 55 offers and all that crap. And like, what happens with a lot of athletes, not saying this is everybody, but what happens with a lot of athletes is they will see that and then they get very discouraged, and then they start to lack some motivation. They're like, oh man, I'm never going to get to that level. This kid's my age and he's already going on a visit. He's already at this college camp, and they get very discouraged and they feel like, man, I'm so far behind, and that actually hurts them more than it helps them. Some athletes might see that and they might use that as like kind of fuel, and they're like, oh yeah, great, like, you know what, no, I'm better than this kid, I'm going to prove that I'm better than this kid. And that's great, that's a fine attitude to have. Plenty of people are like that, plenty of successful people are like that. But I feel like more often than not, you're constantly comparing yourself to other people because of the stuff that you see on your phone, which actually will make you feel worse about yourself. So what I recommend is try to limit the stuff that you're consuming on your phone. I recommend just putting the phone away altogether. Like, you should only watch, like me personally on my phone, like I'll give you a personal example, right? Like, I feel like I get immensely distracted because of like the way social media is with like women, right? Like guys who generally like to look at a pretty girl, right? But you see all kinds of stuff on social media with these girls that have half of their clothes off, and it's just like, it's just not good to see. So me personally, anytime that I see anything like that, because I feel like it messes with my focus. I feel like if I'm trying to work and I'm trying to do something, because I'm constantly on my phone working, uploading videos, making content, commenting back to you guys, and I'll see something like that, I try to scroll off it as quick as I can. Because the more time you spend looking at that type of stuff, it's not good for you, you guys. Your bodies are not meant to consume that type of content. content. And me personally, I know the second I stopped doing that, I felt a lot more focused. And this is like years ago. This is probably maybe like 2 or 3 years ago since I made this decision to stop looking at that type of stuff, because one, it's not right. Two, it just messes with your mind. So the moment I stopped doing that, I felt like I was a lot more productive. I was much happier, because then you start playing the comparison game, like, well, you know, my girlfriend doesn't look like that, or what, and it's just a bad thing to do, right? And that's a little bit of a personal example, but still, at the same time, as an athlete, you want to cut out distractions like that. On your phone, it should be only things that are positive and good for you, right? So you should be looking at like videos that we post that are educational, that give you guys some type of value, that are going to make you a better player. Looking at something that's going to help you out, you know, in school or whatever it is, where it's positive things that you are seeing. In a world of negativity, especially with politics and how that whole world is, like, think about it from a political standpoint. Like, I'm very interested in politics and things like that and what's going on in the world. But if I sit there for a while, like when that whole thing happened with Charlie Kirk, and I'm looking at video after video of that stuff, it just like, you get so pissed off, you get so upset, and it's just like, it's not a good frame of mind to be in. You want to only fill your mind with positive things, positivity, and things where you are learning. And trust me, you're going to be a much better football player for that, and you will be a much happier person if you take those strategies.